I still wake up in cold sweats, tasting salt and fear, remembering the night I became both a hero and the black sheep in my own family's eyes. I never asked for that kind of spotlight. I only acted. But apparently actions don't always protect reputations. I want to tell you everything because I need to unburden this weight. I want someone to strangers online, yes, to understand what it's like to carry heroism and shame at the same time. It started months ago. My older sister, Mara, got engaged to a promising young man, Nathan, whose family had wealth, influence, and pride. From the moment the engagement was announced, my parents mapped every detail of the wedding: vendors, guest list, food, seating, insisting it be flawless. Mara turned to me often, confiding in me quietly that she was overwhelmed. I volunteered to help, hoping to salvage some semblance of closeness. She accepted, but under one condition: I was not to embarrass them by pushing my own ideas too much. The family's public image mattered more than anything. In any family with rigid hierarchy, I was the youngest. I'd always been the quiet one, the one who overthinks, the one who watches. In school, I was the smart kid, riddled with social anxiety. At work, I kept my head down. My parents often likened me to a spare tire, useful when needed, but never in the spotlight. So when Mara asked me to help with the food, I said yes, but tread carefully. She trusted me to vet vendors and help negotiate contracts. We tasted menus. Among the choices was a seafood bar: oyster shooters, shrimp cocktails, lobster tails, clams, mussels. Items Mara loved, items her fiancé tolerated but thought grand. The caterer they chose was recommended by Nathan's Side, a high-end company with glowing reviews. I warned briefly: check for safety protocols, proper storage, freshness. Mara nodded, but from then onward, I felt the walls closing. Weeks before the wedding, I began getting uneasy. In my work as a biomedical researcher, never mind how nerdy that sounds, I'd seen foodborne illnesses ruin people. I asked the caterer for their food safety certifications, asked to visit their kitchen, asked about their sourcing for oysters. I got vague answers. We follow all protocols. Nothing to worry about. But those reassurances felt slippery. Mara told me, don't make a scene. They are people with reputation. Trust me. I tried to drop it. I had no desire to be the pestering sister. But then 2 nights before the wedding, I got an anonymous tip. A former employee of the catering company texted me. They cut corners. I saw seafood sit out too long. They never kept ice beds under the shellfish overnight. They told staff to squish a new batch on top to keep things cold. My heart dropped. I forwarded the tip to Mara. I begged her to cancel the seafood bar, or at least stiffly test everything. Mara's eyes brimmed with tears. She said, they'll cancel us. They'll ruin the venue. You don't understand how much we risk. The tension in her voice made me realize the family was squeezing her too. Her wedding wasn't a moment of joy only. It was a risk-laden balancing act. I insisted. She pleaded. Our conversations ended in heavy silences. The caterer brushed me off. My calls grew insistent. The night before the wedding, I hardly slept. Every scenario replayed in my head. What if someone got sick? What if I prevented disaster by speaking up? On the wedding morning, I arrived early. The caterer's staff was prepping tables, laying out ice beds, arranging trays. I walked into the kitchen unannounced, sweat on my shirt, adrenaline in my veins. I asked one of the cooks to show me the seafood storage walk-in. They resisted. They showed me a cooler. I peeked, and in the back I saw shellfish piled loosely, not refrigerated properly, no clear labeling, no separate drainage from melting ice. It felt like a nightmare. I confronted the head chef. This is unsafe. You can't serve this. The chef snapped. You're not a food inspector. You need to step out. I shouted that I would call health authorities. The kitchen fell silent. I ransacked my phone. Yes, I really considered the hotline but hesitated. A nightmare of family shaming flashed behind my eyes. Meanwhile, the bride was putting on her dress. The guests were arriving. The venue staff were glancing at us. My sister was fragile, wrapped in silk. If I overstepped, if I embarrassed her publicly, she would hate me. I backed off for a moment. I called one of the anonymous tip sources back, asking for evidence. He texted photos showing improper ice, a cooler with no thermometer reading, shellfish left on the counter, a staffer turning off the cooler at night to save power. I stared at those images. I felt rage and dread. Then the caterer's manager stormed out. He told us curtly, "You have no right to come here." My voice shook. I said, "I'm going to make a call." I dialed the local health inspector's office. I stacked my body between guests and the kitchen. I insisted they investigate immediately. The manager sputtered that wedding time was sacred. I don't know why, I think fear pushed me harder. I said, "If even one person eats from that bar, people will suffer." "I feel guilty," I shouted. I drew attention. Right then was the climax. The venue manager rushed in, guest arrivals froze mid-walk, bridesmaids stopped adjusting dresses. The health inspector arrived within minutes, surprisingly. When he parked, I felt my heart hammering. He marched in, clipboard in hand. I showed him pictures and walked him through what I saw. The caterer protested. My parents appeared, alarmed. Mara stood behind the veil, hearing bits of the yelling. Silence dropped. Every guest waiting outside heard a murmur. The health inspector inspected the seafood station. He tested ice beds, measured temperatures, asked staff documentation. After a tense half-hour, he declared, the seafood bar was condemned. None of it could be served. The wedding had to replace seafood with alternate dishes immediately. In that moment, I felt adrenaline and shame. Some guests stared. Some whispered. Mara's face turned white. I anticipated rage for my parents. But I also heard one of the inspectors mutter, "If not for that sister, someone would get sick tonight." That sank in. They removed trays discreetly. They scrambled to replace with chicken, pasta, vegetarian fare. Some guests were upset. Some whispered. The wedding went on, albeit with logistical stress. Mara was quiet, her eyes legal-ringed with tears, but clasping my hand in a fleeting squeeze. Later she told me she was furious with me for embarrassing the caterers, scandalizing the event, risking societal gossip. But then she added, "I know you were right." In the days after, my parents detained me in their bedroom. They told me I had humiliated the family. "You embarrassed us in front of our social circle," my father said. My mother's eyes were full of hurt, disappointment. They said I should have warned Mara privately, not made a public issue, not caused the circus. They were furious the caterer would blacklist our family from future social contracts. They said I'd made them look weak, pushed their face into gossip columns, open us to shame. I defended myself. If I stayed quiet, people would get poisoned. I saved lives. They said that was melodramatic. They repeated, "We told you not to embarrass us." At one point my sister sat, head in hands, saying she hated that the day she was supposed to feel joy turned into chaos. She didn't yell at me, but she was heartbroken. I stopped speaking for days. I moved back to my apartment, avoiding calls. The press got wind. Yes, people noticed the abrupt cancellation of the seafood bar. Many whispered about food poisoning scare. Some news outlets ran cautious stories, speculating the reason. I read comments calling me attention seeker, overstepping sister, social climber trying to sabotage prestige. My own aunts and cousins messaged me, "You should apologize. You tarnished her day." People talk. And yet, about 50 guests later reported mild symptoms: nausea, vomiting, stomach cramps. None were hospitalized. One elderly aunt nearly was. Because the unsafe seafood was never served, those cases couldn't be proved. If it had been served, dozens more would be struck. I see that. I feel that. Sometimes I feel like I am living a ghost story, how close disaster was. Mara called me after a week. Her voice was small. She said she didn't want to be angry anymore, but was still hurting. She told me she resented the chaos, the attention shifting to me, the whispers. But she also said she owed me her life, in her head more strongly than words. "It made me cry," she said. "The wedding isn't the only day. We have years ahead. I hope one day this doesn't stay between us." I'm still estranged from parts of my family. My parents haven't spoken to me in full. At family events, I'm awkwardly invited, but left on the outskirts. My sister tries to bridge, but the tension lingers. My mother told me she's proud in secret but damned by social expectations to dismiss my actions publicly. My father avoids looking me in the eye. Sometimes I ask, was it worth it? I lost family unity. I was scolded and called disgrace. I watched my sister's big moment overshadowed by scandal, because in society's eyes scandal meant disrepair, not safety. But I saved lives. And I'll carry that. I think that means something. I don't know if I'll ever heal from being the one who exposed danger in a place where everyone wanted beauty only. I don't know if my family and I will ever fully reconcile. I don't know if Mara will ever see me as less of a disruptor and more of a protector. Writing this relieves me a little. I'm sharing because I need that distance between my secret and the world. I need people to hear that I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I was responding to fear and responsibility. If you ever face a moment where doing the right thing threatens reputations, know this. I felt shame and courage at the same time. You might be punished socially for speaking up, but lives matter more than appearances. I will carry that lesson for the rest of my days.